My name is Merrill Dubrow, President and CEO of Mark Research and the Chair-elect of the MS Marketing Research Program at Michigan State. I'm really excited to be part of Spartan Insights. Spartan Insights is a series of podcasts that I'll be hosting and interviewing one of the 350 alumni from the Michigan State Marketing Research Program. Today's guest on Spartan Insights is Michael Klaus, Associate Brand Manager at Chess Wall at Stryker. Michael, thanks so much for being here and being a guest on Spartan Insights.
Thank you, Merrill. I'm looking forward to talk with you today.
Great. All right, let's get into it. I got into research by accident. A lot of industry contacts that I have were the same. How did you end up in the research industry?
Yeah, great question. So I was a student in the undergrad business school at Michigan State in 2014. Was looking at my career perspectives and, as I was getting closer to graduation, and I had actually had Professor Spring as a professor for one of my undergraduate classes. And he, presented towards the end of the semester on the value of research and of the market research industry as a whole. And then presented on the program, the market research program. So I took that information and really, looked at some of the options that I had for starting my career and decided that the MSMR program was right for me.
That's great. That's a nice story. Let's discuss it. So there you are. You graduate from the program a number of years ago, I think 5+ years ago, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It would
Okay.
have been December 2015. So. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. All right. So, can you discuss your career since you graduated and the positions you've had?
Yeah. So while I was in the program still, and one of the great things about the program is you get real world experience pretty much right away. So I started with General Motors in the co-op program. So it was still partially educational from summertime classes online. And then I was working full time for General Motors. So my internship with them ran from May through the end of the year, and I worked in their both in their brand department and in their product department. So I was either sitting half the time in the Warren Tech Center or downtown at the Rensen. Had some great experiences through that time. Was able to conduct a lot of clinical studies. Actually traveled down to Texas to do some in-depth interviews with heavy users of Silverado drivers to actually develop some pretty cool new technologies. I was actually, I don't know if you've seen any of those commercials with the new tailgate from the GMC, but we were actually part of setting up the surveys and the studies that resulted in that new product line extension. So that was some really great experiences there. And then transitioned from more of the products to looking more at the brand side of things. So really focused on the website design, how we presented ourselves to our customers, looked at a lot of things like click-through rate, the ability for a prospective customer to come onto GM's website and go all the way through consideration and then purchase on a dealership website. So we did a lot of work with that. Came back and then presented my my final thesis to the MSMR group. So we had a panel. That end of the year project was really focused on a project called Mavens, which was GM's foray into ride-sharing services. So really focused on larger cities like San Francisco and New York, finding the ability for Cadillac brand to be represented in a ride-sharing type service. So that was, the big portion of time that I had directly related to a research role. And then from there, I graduated from the program and was looking to get into, a full-time position. Was actually offered a full-time position at General Motors, but decided to switch gears a little bit into more of a broader marketing role with a company called Steelcase in Grand Rapids. That's where my first full-time job took me.
That's interesting. So let's talk about that for a second. Obviously, you've got a great research background. How has that helped you with your current position? In other words, I know it's clearly a brand manager position, but how has research helped you with that?
Yeah, great question. So, after I went to Steelcase for my first full-time role, I worked there for 3 years, and now I'm at Stryker. I've been here for about a year. And as you said, I brand manager role for the chest wall division. So research has given me a ton of skill sets that I otherwise would not have had. So just for a little bit of background, I always knew that I wanted to get into more of a brand management type of career as I moved forward. But I realized I was lacking some of the skills necessary for me to be successful in that area. Some of the job perspectives from undergrad that I would have come out with originally, would have been more along the sales type of roles. And I was really looking to get into, more of a full-time marketing type role. And what I found really intriguing about research was what it provided. So the analytical skills to be successful. And when you look at a market, my role that I'm looking at right now, we're entering a brand new space. So you really have to understand the market, understand the customer in that space, and understand how you're going to set your go-to-market strategy. And without research and the skills that I gained from the MSMR program, I would not have been able to be successful in this role.
And I assume at your current company, there are a bunch of pure researchers there, right?
Absolutely, yes. So my counterpart who's in our marketing analytics role, we are constant in stride with when we're going to launch products, and we talk back and forth on, best way to create a survey design, best way to set up any in-depth interviews that we need to do. Obviously, our big customers are surgeons, so those are the populations that we're looking at. But yeah, there's a whole department of market research roles at Stryker.
That's great. So let's speed down the path 10, 15 years. Is your ultimate goal to be CMO? I mean, are you looking at like a chief marketing officer position that would really get you jazzed up of a Fortune 500 company? Is that the goal where you're headed, or you're TBD?
Yeah, I would say that's where my mindset is and my track right now. I think to lead a Fortune 500 company and set the direction overall from a Stryker, Inc. perspective does get me very jazzed up. Those are the type of goals that I have in mind for now, and obviously much more experience to be gathered from that standpoint. When I look to my future, I think there's tremendous opportunity down that path.
That's great. So from a keeping sharp in the industry, right? So to understand what are the new marketing trends, understand what's going on in the competitive landscape, do you have certain, whether it's newsletters that you get sent to you daily, weekly, monthly? Is there sites that you go? Are you reading eMarketer? Are you reading Mashables? Is it yes to everything I just said?
Yeah.
That you can share?
I think there's a broad range of sources. So everything that you mentioned, I mean, I kind of go a little old school with working down the Wall Street Journal track. They actually have a CMO weekly newsletter that I get. That's where I try to get a lot of my information from. But I also would say that I leverage, specifically from the research side of things, I leverage the alumni network that MSMR has provided. So I made some great friends and acquaintances as well through my time in the program that, when I have specific research questions or just overall marketing questions in general, I know I can go to them to get those answers, because, we have several of my classmates that are still on the supplier side, so I can get some of those details. And then on the in-house side as well, I have a lot of colleagues as that. So I'd say, those publications you mentioned, Wall Street Journal, and then just really leveraging the network as well.
Right. So let's follow up on that for a second, because my sense is you really try to be connected to a lot of people, and you try to network with a fair amount of people. I would imagine whether it's through LinkedIn or just, emails or texting or even some calls the old-fashioned way. Can you give some advice to the students who will be listening to this podcast about how important it is, how you do that, how you get that to be a critical part of your day each and every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say just knowing that this program, one of the major things, besides the skills and the techniques that you'll learn throughout your time, whether you're in the full-time program or the part-time program, is really just the community of researchers that have been put together. I would also say the faculty, my discussions with them, having Professor Brereton, who, was in the industry for over 25 or 30 years, having him on your phone, and, it's great because he'll pick up the phone no matter what. And is willing to jump in and answer any questions. I think that the platform that you choose is really dependent upon your schedule, your preferences, and the person that you're trying to contact. I've found the most successful to be that kind of old school route with either a phone call or texting. It's a very formal, personal way to kind of reach out. And then if you're kind of just looking to meet somebody for the first time, or have heard, one of your colleagues talk about somebody in the industry, I think LinkedIn is a great professional platform that I've had success with as well.
That's great. Do you guys get together with your class? I mean, have you had reunions, Michael, since you've graduated?
Yeah, informally, nothing specific that we set up. We try to have at least, one time in the fall where we'll do a tailgate together with a lot of the local folks. So we have a pretty strong network of graduates that are in either the Metro Detroit area and in West Michigan here as well. And then some others in Chicago that try to make it in. So, of the class that we had, roughly 35 or so, I'd say, pretty frequent, at least annual or even a couple times a year where 10 or so of us are getting together.
That's great. Any favorite, I know you mentioned Dr. Spring a few times, any favorite Dr. Spring story or takeaway that you can share today?
Yeah. So, Dr. Spring, I think, was always, his class, Consumer Insights, I think was extremely intriguing because it really brought psychology of how people think and how they look at buying and purchasing behaviors. So that class in general, I just think really put what marketing research is into a whole different perspective. It showcased that the psychology of how people look at buying behaviors is really vital, and it's really at the basis of what we do. And before I had been in the program, I never really thought of it that way. So him, being able to articulate it like that was really a game changer for me. And then I'd also say Professor Brereton and just his real world experience, both on a supplier side and an in-house side, just extremely valuable. And he, bringing those lessons of the everyday life of what a researcher can be and the value it can provide to an organization was great to be a part of.
Right. No, that's amazing. If I had to guess, you do a lot of self-reflection. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I think throughout, when you're in your career and relatively young in mine, I think I try to take a look, especially at the end of each year to say, where am I, where are we going, and, what type of things are going to get me excited as we move into the next year.
And yeah, that's what I thought. So the reason I ask you that is you don't realize it, but Jessica and myself, we're granting wishes. And our wish today, Michael, is for you get a do-over. Since I have a feeling you've, evaluated your career, some of the things that you've done, is there something you would have done a little bit different anywhere? Whether it's, I don't know, at the program, one of your jobs that you mentioned, that you would have zigged when you zagged? Anything come to mind?
At this point, I've looked at where I've gotten, and I'm happy with where I'm at and the decisions that kind of led me to this point. Now, is there, small changes to be made throughout? Probably. At this point, I look at it and I'm, like I said, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, and the MSMR program is a huge part of that.
That's great. So, all the students are going to be listening. Let's build a list of as many things as we can. Just some of Michael's best practices. What would you like to leave the incoming class with? What advice, just some things that really can help them through the process and they start to navigate through their career? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say that, really look at your education with MSMR as a springboard. I wouldn't compartmentalize it because there's things that I think as a student, when you go through an undergrad type program, there's certain courses or certain things you've learned that you may say, I learned that and now, I'm going to leave it there. I took the test and I moved on. There's real tangible skills to be learned in this program that you can refer to and go back to during the course of your career. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, which we've touched on already, is just don't lose that network. This is a high-level program, right? The best in the nation for an MSMR program. So that carries a lot of weight when you're looking for career perspectives, when you're looking to network outside of either your specific industry. If you want to change careers, if you're looking to just continue to build that network, I would just say continue to leverage the program that has been built, your classmates, the alumni before you, and especially the professors. I think cultivating a relationship with the professors is definitely a must.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's a funny story. I'm really quick with math, and the reason is my second grade teacher was a woman named Mrs. Hartwell, and I grew up in Framingham, Massachusetts. And the reason that I'm quick in math is this exact. example that she did in this game we used to play in second grade called Around the World. So we would have flashcards, and four times 9 would show up, and the two people who were at their desk would stand up, and the first one to say 36 would go on, right? And then they'd be challenged by the next person. And the first two people that got back to your desk got a cupcake. So in other words, you have to go around the room, around the world. And I always had a sweet tooth. Thanks, Mom. And I always had to win that because I wanted the cupcake. So it's funny, and I think it's really impressive that you have this appreciation, love, support, guidance from the professors. Too many young people, Michael, they graduate and they don't have that appreciation from this. So I really commend you for saying that and believing that. That's really, really great. Michael, any last minute comments you want to say before we end today's session?
I really appreciate you having me on, to talk about the program. It's done so much for me, my career, and the last piece of advice is just to use the program and all that it offers. So from the professors all the way through the alumni to the board, everyone's there to really help you and to see you grow. And I would say the biggest thing that I took away is that there really was a family feel. We called ourselves at the end of the program FAM, short for family. So that is really true. And I would just say to continue to embrace that.
That's well said. Thanks, Michael. I can't thank you enough for your time today on Spartan Insights. My name is Merrill Dubrow, and thanks for listening.